Oh,
Just messing with you.
but like,
Hold on.
it was depraved, but I don't know. There's not a lot of stuff that really surprises me anymore.
So
Right.
Paris probably knows it because she's on Twitter. Like, there's like a group of women that only date black men, and they're called Queens of Spades. So I've been texting
I
him.
don't know that. But apparently I'm a part of it.
Oh, that's what you were talking about last week.
Yeah, like I've been trolling him about it for like 3 months, just sending him random text messages like Lord Fahim, Lord DZ, Lord DZ has sent his minks to get you your Jeep Wrangler. He wouldn't pick up the phone.
Obviously not, bro. Come on, man.
But if I really had somebody up there talking to you or leave a message, you'd be like, "What the fuck is going on?"
That's facts, man.
Y'all are wild.
That's not the worst roast we've ever done. It's not even close.
Yeah, bro. Like half of the stuff we couldn't even put on recording. It's not past the statute of limitations yet, man.
It's pretty funny. Yeah, Herb, you couldn't have gone to school with us because you would have hated us.
Nah, bro, I'm good, bro. I got enough doses of y'all for the 2 to 3 years I did.
We had already chilled out by then, bro.
Like,
I was a saint at FAMU, man.
Pretty
compared
much
to what I used to be.
Boy, pretty much. Like, stuff I would see, I wouldn't even make fences. I just look around. Like, wow, this is really going on.
Oh my God, bro, it wasn't that bad, man. Heard that was back before sliding into DMs was a thing, bro. You had to do it in person.
What a
Tell me,
time.
Yeah.
I always felt
we
like I
did.
was gonna be the awkward girl at the grocery store, and I'm just pushing my shopping cart along and accidentally bump and trip and fall, and somebody was gonna come pick me up.
Yeah, I've seen that movie before. That was a pretty good one, man. What was that? What was that called?
There's actually a movie like that, isn't it? Like, I feel like there's a
I
movie.
think so, man.
Like
a
Jennifer-
lot of movies like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like some romantic comedy-ish.
Like some
Yeah,
Jennifer
man.
Lopez type movie made in
Dear
Manhattan.
John had yeah.
All right, let's get into it. Welcome back, folks. This is Word of Mouth, talking mental health, relationships, family, etc. Y'all know the deal. Like and subscribe to the channel. This week we have a special guest, a lady in the building. It's not just all this masculinity, some feminine energy, by the name of
You
Paris. I'll let her give out the, her YouTube spiel. It'll be in the link in the description as well.
So my name is Paris. I go by Paradise Paris on all my socials, every single one of them. My Twitter is the most popular _Paradise Paris. My Instagram is Paradise Paris. I don't give out my Snap, but those are my main 2 socials. You guys can find me on there. And yeah, appreciate you guys for having me.
Thank you for coming and being out here. So this week we're talking OnlyFans. And OnlyFans. We're talking that and how it's kind of, for lack of a better term, plagued all of social media and the internet for the past 2 years now. And we're just gonna kind of go around the room, or I guess the Zoom, and see what's everybody's opinion on it, starting with Herb, who's probably over there playing a video game. Looks like he's playing Call of Duty.
I'm not. I am on Twitter.
What? Where you get this assumption I'm playing video games from?
I do play games. I do. I love games.
No, I mean-
am a game person.
What's going on, bro?
I have it. I'm talking through my headset to y'all.
I'm just
Okay. So my thoughts on OnlyFans. So my thoughts, I mean, it's pretty simple, right? For me, I personally don't care what you decide to do with your life. I think OnlyFans as it is, I've never actually been on OnlyFans, nor have I had an account. But I mean, from what are we talking about OnlyFans before COVID, or like kind of after it really blew up during COVID, to where it's kind of like pretty much another social media platform where other people, basically everybody's using it now?
It wouldn't matter. You were made aware of it after COVID.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, my understanding of what OnlyFans was, it was a place for amateur adults to kind of make a living for themselves, selling content to essentially people who supported them. I mean, me personally, that's on you. If you want to go out there and that's your way of making money, that's fine. The question I have, for them is this sustainable over the long term? To me personally, I think it's not. So my thoughts is, if you're going to go into that arena, how are you maximizing your time and basically in there to basically try to pretty much play the long game? Because you can get in there, like I've heard stories about, people having one video and clear, say 50,000 off of one video, but how are you basically flipping that 50,000 to basically carry you through the long term? Because again, I think on average, you can probably run with this for maybe a year, 2 years, maybe 5 years max. But after that, when the money starts drying up and the next major platform appears, how have you basically used OnlyFans to basically capitalize on the long game? I mean, so that's my thoughts on it. I mean, people, at the end of the day, you have a choice. Do what you want to do. You just got to live with your choices.
Derek?
I didn't really know what OnlyFans was for a second. I thought it was like another Twitch or something.
Mm-hmm.
I heard about it on like a reference of it in like blogs or podcasts and stuff, and it was like synonymous with like porn and stuff. So I just assumed that people couldn't do it on Twitch. Those Gamergate girls and stuff didn't do it on Twitch, so they moved something else. It was OnlyFans. Then of course
I don't mean to cut you off, but they do that sexual content on Twitch too.
Well, Twitch, a lot of gaming streamers did Twitch. You have like you have some gamer girls where get that rating up. Maybe you go topless, not fully topless, but like bras and stuff. I just thought that was the natural evolution of what happened on Twitch. That's what I thought it was. Then all I've heard about OnlyFans was pretty much like when someone wants to do porn without like I guess being on like one of the porn sites or something, OnlyFans. So that's all I knew about it.
Paris?
Sex sales. Period, point blank, sex sales. I've seen a lot of people say exactly what Herbo say. What are they going to do in the long term? The porn industry has been around since the 70s. Ron Jeremy, he made it happen. And the only difference is in between then and now was who had the access to make it what it is. And instead of Pornhub getting the money and them being able to profit and make it lucrative, it's deposited right into their bank account. Honestly, how I feel about OnlyFans is I'm not so liberated to say that I'm that pro sex work. Like, I'll be honest, I'm not that pro sex work. Is it the most positive element of something? No. But I do think once you put your stuff in that game, you better be willing to stick it out and ride it through. Because what's going to happen is a lot of women in about 5 years or so, when they look back, it's not going to be them shamed behind doing it. It's going to be, why did I do that? What made me put my content out there to the point where I have no control over it? And that's my biggest conception about it. Like, you have to be willing to deal with what comes along with it, because once it's on the internet, it's on the internet. Somebody else purchased it for their own amusement, and there will always be extra horny, perverted people, whether it's a man or a woman, who have a certain kink or certain fetish, and you're entertaining it. So you can't be surprised if you look up 7 years from now and you're in the grocery store with your child and your family, and somebody runs up to you and say, "Oh, I seen what you did." You got to be willing to take that. So that's how I feel about it. And in the long term run of it, it can still be lucrative. It can still be profitable for you, because sex never dies. Sex will sell. Everybody is always corny. But I mean, too, in the long run, I think more people are more so concerned about how the people that are capitalizing on it are going to bounce back from it when they actually do tap into wanting to be in the real world again.
Yeah.
I had a couple of thoughts about it. I did some research on it just to make sure I was coming from a place of some background. So when I was looking through the demographics of the individuals that were on it, the vast majority of the people don't make that much money. It's really more or less the 1 to 3% that even make a livable wage to begin with. When you have such a, I'm trying to think of the best way to put this. There's really, like any other industry, the most successful people are the ones that make the money, and the rest of the people are more or less left out to dry. And if you look at other documentaries such as After the Porn Ends, I've seen it on Amazon. It's relative. I think it's free, actually. You see that these people have a very hard time adjusting to regular life afterwards. And that makes a lot of sense. When you are in this type of work and this type of field, it's very hard to get into a job that will respect you. Irrespective of the degrees that you have, irrespective of the knowledge that you have or your skill set, you're always going to have a negative stigma attached to you because you did this type of work. So when you have such few people actually making money from this field in a way that they can live off of it, and then having the vast majority of it, the people not able to go back into daily life, I think it's setting up a lot of individuals for failure. There's no other way to really put it. And one of the things that it also is showing is like a canary in the coal mine type of situation, where we've seen such a lax or such a downfall in terms of the morality standards of a lot of individuals. For so many people to see this as a credible line of work, and for so many people not to shame the individuals doing this type of work, I see as though that it's just going to proliferate and get a lot worse as we go on. As Derek was mentioned earlier, on Twitch they have streams in which I think they call it bikini streams or something like that, where like a woman would just sit in a pool because that doesn't violate the rules. They're in a bikini instead of actually in lingerie or whatever. But in doing so, they're also attracting the same type of attention. And as Herb was saying, there's just going to be another platform coming up in the future where you will see the same type of cycle. You'll see the people that are most popular getting into the field, people seeing them make money and trying to get into it, and then you have an oversaturation. So this is just going to repeat over and over, with a lot of people being hurt in the process. So I don't really agree with OnlyFans, but there's really no way to stop it with the way that the United States and the world is going at the moment. So it's just something we would have to live with at this point.
Okay, so everybody's kind of giving their opinion on it, what they feel about it, and I'm gonna give mine. It's probably gonna surprise a lot of people behind it and how I got to it.
You just force 5 people.
But what I think of OnlyFans is just, I think of it as a young girl stripping, but I think of it on a wider scale because a lot of people got into OnlyFans during COVID. I think it's just, you can try to blame Trump, you can try to blame Biden, you can blame whoever, but it's just, it brings out the ideology, or it brings forth that our government system has failed us in totality. Because I had a few conversations with women who do the OnlyFans thing, and I asked them all the same question. I said, if you could afford to live where you live or live somewhere nice, go on to 2 to 3 vacations a year and not have to worry about money when you get back, would you still do it? They said, hell no. It's a financial thing. It may not be like the 1 to 3% that make the good money, but it may give you gas money or give you money towards your kids' baseball or soccer or whatever they got. It got them by, and that's what they use it for. Like, I know a young lady, Paris probably knows her. I'm not gonna put her name out there, but she has cancer or had cancer. She has an OnlyFans. We all know cancer is a very expensive treatment, regardless of what they give you, and the medical bills are outrageous. So she has an OnlyFans to pay for her cancer. That's a whole different perspective to put on it right there. So now, yeah, she's fine or whatever, but if her content ever gets to where she works or anything like that, at least in the military, I know you can't put yourself out in the pornographic ways. And a lot of industries are not going to accept you, even in downtown McDonald's, not going to accept you putting yourself out in a pornographic way. But it all results back to our government system failing us. That's why a lot of people did this. You have inflation that's still going up. You have a capital tax of 52% in New York and 55% in California and 48% everywhere else.
I really want to counteract that.
So I just think OnlyFans is what's it called? I think it's just a product of what's happening. Like, it really is. Like, there's some people who really just genuinely do it because that's what they want to do. But then to me, there's others who do it as a surviving, like a young college girl that strips. It's not the same as porn where you kind of get into porn because that's what you want to do. Even if it's just quick money, like. And I don't think a lot of people even think about the repercussions, because there are some who do it and haven't thought about the repercussions 5-10 years from now because of what they're doing now. Hold on for a minute. All right, my bad, folks, for the technical difficulties. Like I was saying, I just think our government has failed us in totality about the whole OnlyFans thing, because people are doing it like a way out to to make ends meet, so to speak. You know, if you've been out of work for 6-7 months, let's say you wasn't getting unemployment right away, or let's go with the people who make 6 figures. That's a small population, smaller than what we know, but let's say go to people who make 6 figures, but they've been out of work 6, 7, 8 months. They have a certain lifestyle or live a certain lifestyle that they may not be able to afford. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they say you make too much to get unemployment or this or that. Now they're only getting $300, $400 a month or $600 a month. That doesn't afford for bills. That doesn't afford for food. Doesn't afford for a lot of things. So I think a lot of people did it as a means to an end versus really want to do it. Do I think some people did it because they just wanted the attention and wanted money? Yeah. Do I think some people just did it just to do it? Yeah, of course. But at least you guys aren't really on Twitter, but Paris and I are on Twitter. There are women who pretty much just put their body out there because they just want to put their body out there, and they're not asking for any money or anything like that, and that's just what they want to do. Long term, do I think a lot of these people are thinking about this long term? No, because eventually it's going to come back to haunt them in some shape or form. And if it doesn't come back to haunt them, it's going to come back to haunt their kids. Because a lot of these women are putting themselves out there and not realizing their kids are going to go through grade school, and these kids are going to see this. And when they see this, what's going to happen with this? They're going to make fun of them. They're going to do this. They're going to do that, making their life ultimately a living hell.
I'm laughing at this because I got a tweet about this. I actually got a tweet on the timeline right now about this. That very comment that you just said.
Yeah, like this
in grade school are going to see other kids and they're going to bully them. And I think you are absolutely incorrect.
I don't agree with your points. I don't agree with your points at all, my boy.
You don't think?
Here's the thing. I've been trying to be quiet about it because, you know, it sounds good. Like you're making a good point to say why people are doing this. But let's be very clear. Girls are being groomed by young women inadvertently to be sex workers in some capacity. Period, point blank. We see it by getting cosmetic surgery. We see it by becoming Instagram influencers. It has been that way since video girls stopped being video girls. We have seen it since Bad Girls Club has went off of air. Now it's social media. Every time you pick up your phone, you can see a woman exposing her own body. It's nobody leaking this. It's nobody telling her, I'm threatening you to put this out to expose you, to shame you. She's telling you, I'm going to go get it done because I want to show it off. I want to show you everything up under the sun, and I get paid for it. I get nice things. People take care of me. People are nice to me. This is the life I get because of how good I look. That is the social media reality, and that is everyday's reality now. So it's so many women with OnlyFans. It's so many women who are strippers. It's so many women who are influencers into a huge capacity now, to the point where those women, majority of them are single moms. Their kids are going to school with other kids in their likeness. Nobody's going to be bullying them because this is their norm.
Yeah, and I had a couple of comments about the argument setup that you had, Denzel, in terms of the whole income type of deal. You first set up your argument by stating that the majority of the people that are used to a certain lifestyle would have to do OnlyFans as a supplement to their income. I don't think there's really any overlap between individuals making six figures and the individuals that you see on OnlyFans. So that's not really a valid argument in my particular point of view. And just to follow up on what Paris was saying, we have a single mom epidemic, more or less. The rate of divorce is going up. This is just going to be a problem that's going to be more and more exacerbated as time goes on. What we're seeing is the majority of the youth growing up on social media. So in order for them to get the likes, in order for them to have more influence, they have to outdo the person that came before them. So it's just going to be a proliferation of this particular behavior, and it's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse until the point where we're going to have to reset everything. And honestly, I think this all starts at the home, to be quite frank. If we don't have a nuclear family or a very strong home unit, all of this is just going to keep continuing, right? And an additional point that I wanted to make is, yes, it can be used as a supplement to income, but if you look at the totality of people that were put out of work during the time of the pandemic, a lot of those were dudes as well. What did they have to do, right? I mean, this just goes with what Herb was saying earlier with choices. Everybody was struggling and everybody reacted in different ways. Some ways were adverse to their future and some ways were beneficial. Some people picked up skills to where they can work at home, or skills that would benefit them in the long run. So I don't think OnlyFans is a path that is even worthwhile to take as a young person, in my opinion.
Do I think it's worthwhile? No, of course I don't. I'm not saying it's worthwhile. I'm just saying playing devil's advocate as to why some did it. Because like I showed you, I sent you guys a post of where I sent you the post of the OnlyFans. Then I sent you another post of people who are taking unemployment versus working. And to me, it's the same concept. Why would I work at a job making $9, $10 an hour? Let's look at what $9, $10 an hour is. We'll say $80 a week. I'm going to do the math right quick. So let's say $9 an hour times 80 a week. That's $720. So in a month, it's like what, $1,440? Rent, the average rent. Rent average is what, $1,100?
Something like that.
Something like that. So who wants to work for that? Be honest. Any of you want to work for $9 an hour?
I'm not, but I also had a credentials because I was able to invest in myself educationally to say that. Also, too, before I actually obtained any degree that I currently hold, I was working to obtain actual experience, and it's not one job since my very first job where I've made under $9. And I lived in Arkansas, which is one of the most poor states in the country. So there's absolutely no excuse to say that.
I mean, granted, everybody here, I think, has a master's or at least a bachelor's or enough experience to say that, or working towards a PhD. So,
but I'm the one here who was born a woman.
I get what you're saying.
I don't mean anything, man.
Yeah,
statistically speaking, Black men are doing way worse than African American women. We're at much greater of a disadvantage in terms of education and job prospects. But I digress, man. My views are kind of.
No, I mean she knows. She talks about it on her Twitter, so she knows exactly where you're coming from with that. Because like, even from my own experience, I remember applying to jobs, and them not wanting me, but applying to their internship and say I'll be the perfect match, but the job description was the same as the internship description. Even now, with a master's working on a PhD, there's still people who DM me or hit me up to do not contract work, like labor, like picking up boxes and all that stuff, and they see that I have disability on my resume and everything, and they still hit me up to do these jobs I physically cannot do for more than 2, maybe 3 hours a day, and they still hit me up for that. So I get the point in that, but I can imagine how many other people are still in that same position. And it's not like I didn't have the grades, I don't have the experience. Like, I've been in the military 10 years now. I've worked anything from all types of logistical jobs, done leadership things, but it's just where people want to place you, where people want to foothold you to. And if that's what they see you do, that's what they see you do, or that's where they want to see you. If that's where they view that, that's where they view you.
Here's the thing about sex. It's private for a reason. And if I'm in a relationship with a man and he feels it's necessary to show off himself in an inappropriate manner, because the truth of the matter is, I met a girl who has OnlyFans. A lot of my followers have OnlyFans, and the girl was actually filming on both for her content. You know, she's carrying around an actual, what do you call those? Like the photo, the long camera. She was doing that, carrying around with her for filming. But here's the reality of it, because we like to make things like this the norm when it's not normal. If I decided to go have sex with my boyfriend in the park and he's recording for his OnlyFans, because it's not just women playing with themselves or taking bikini pictures. It's not just that. Couples are also engaging in having sex. So if I decided to do that in the park with him for his OnlyFans, and we get stopped by the police, and what's going to happen is we're going to go to jail and we're going to be registered sex offenders. And people keep dressing it up to be something that it's not. That's not the reality. So me as a 25 plus year old woman, having a 16-year-old cousin who is growing up in the social media era, where she don't know anything but social media, but I know both sides of the spectrum. She see this idea, this fallacy. Oh, I got an 18-year-old friend. She got an OnlyFans. She make good money. Me and her both young. We both look nice. We both got a nice body. We got a big booty. I have to tell her, like, listen, baby, it's more to it that comes with it than you just saying you're gonna make money. And that's the glamorization of it. You made the money, yes, but did you think about the consequences of what that money came from? Which is the reason why I preach so heavy when dealing with a man who leads with his money. Because most of the time, a tactic behind money and a person that has it and you want it is manipulation and abuse. So the same thing with OnlyFans. There will be consequences that you have to deal with, because being an overly sexualized person in the everyday world has consequences. Prostitutes go to jail. Escorts hide their actual description of work because they go to jail. But aside from go to jail, what affects you is where you will be able to work, where you will be able to live, and if you will actually be able to have a sustainable living for the rest of your life. Period, point blank, bottom line. And we can stop dressing it up.
No, so Paris, I definitely agree with what you're saying, but here's my take. I think that because of where we are currently in society, we're in a very liberal society right now. I know that in some states, they're actually trying to pass a lot of legislation for sex workers to kind of make it, trying to make it, making it like a kind of like a legal, legitimate source of income. So I think because we're living now in a society that is leaning very liberal, and that pretty much it's like, if you say anything that goes against whatever that norm is, you basically are going to get canceled or berated or being put in some type of label. I think that, we may start seeing a lot more. We're going to continue to see a lot of different, I say, versions of OnlyFans, because like she mentioned, sex sells. And I think, as you mentioned, No one's talking about some of the negatives that you may face down the line with this. As like I said, as I mentioned before, it all comes down to choice. You have a choice to go out to do what you want to do. But at the end of the day, you have to live with whatever choices and decisions that it may make down the line. It kind of goes back to the saying of instant gratification versus delayed gratification. You know, I'm getting this quick money now, but what does it look like later down the line where I may not have the body to really be pushing or being able to get the same kind of content or buzz that I used to? What does it look like if I have to go out somewhere and they're like, oh, you're that girl that used to strip on Onlyfans, or you're that guy that used to do this or that. It's like no one looks at that long-term consequence because they're so taken in by the now. But
we have to realize too, New York, California, and Texas, they always have been the three most progressive states. So they have always made changes to be somewhat ahead of everybody. Yes, we are living in a more liberal country, but the other thing that we have to realize is we still are not progressively voting in our regular community, local politics like we do for the presidential candidates. That's also something new. So this country is being ran by people that don't look like us, that grew up in the baby boomer era, that are making decisions that will be more beneficial to their children and their money in the long run. So at the end of the day, in the next 20 years, I don't see that changing very much.
Valid.
Definitely agree with you there.
Yeah. Whew. I think on that note, we can end it. Like, Paris came in and did her thing, like, shut it down. Anybody else got a point right now? Like, she is valid.
I disagree with a lot of what's been said, but since we're ending, I'm just gonna keep it to myself, man.
Well, we can keep it going. Like,
all right. All right, I do too. So I don't agree with what you were stating. The majority of large cities vote very progressively. I see that from the local governments. In addition, the amount of people voting for the Democratic Party have increased as evidenced by the last election. Additionally, the amount of legislation that come out on the left-leaning side of politics has increased a lot since we've had the Obama era or after the Bush regime. In addition to that, I do believe, or just going off of what Herb was saying before, that's the only stuff that I disagree with in terms of that, but your overall point I agree with more or less. Herb, I had a follow-up question I wanted to ask. You were stating that we're becoming more and more left-leaning, and this is the cause for this type of behavior. And I agree with that to a certain extent, but I had a follow-up question, just kind of playing devil's advocate. Do you believe as though the OnlyFans is a consequence of this left-leaning or a consequence of not having fathers within the household? Because truth be told, if you didn't have the males paying for it in the first place, there would be no market for OnlyFans in general. And I believe strongly that if you had a strong father figure, you wouldn't have men sipping to this degree in which they're paying exorbitant amounts of money that funds these lavish lifestyles. So do you believe as though it is a departure into a more left-leaning society or a departure from a more nuclear family where you have a strong father figure at home?
Before Herb gets to this point, this is what brings me back to my original point why I think the government has failed us.
Okay. So to speak on what you said, Fahim, I can't really give you a good answer to both questions. For me, I like to answer questions with data behind them to back them. I like to provide data behind. So from anything I give you, it'd be like kind of how would I feel? I mean, definitely in the Black community, I mean, we do have a issue with the nuclear family not being in place for the majority. Which is why I say, for me, I realized once I went to college that, you know, I came from kind of a place of privilege because I've had both parents in my house since birth. I grew up in a nuclear family, and I grew up in like that supportive family structure because I grew up with my grandma, my great grandma, and my great great grandma. So for me, I got to see generations of how that nuclear family was built, and they really took in that whole tribal setting. So for me, I can give my opinion from my point of view, but like I say, I can't really answer that question without looking at the data behind it. As far as on the topic of, you know, men paying for this, I mean, sex has been something around since the dawn of time. And prostitution isn't something that's been common. I think every single generation since modern history since not modern history, but since, you know, we've had written history, has had some form of prostitution within their society. So at the end of the day, like, sex is probably one of the strongest desires that a man has, which is why, you know, you hear a lot of people say once a man learns sexual discipline, he can unlock a new level to himself. But for a lot of men, sex is something that is very strong. So, I mean, at the end of the day, this isn't going anywhere because a lot of people can't control their sexual desires. So there will always be men out there who are willing to pay for this content. And that's just, to me, the reality of it. I can't really say if if a left-leaning society is causing this, because I don't have any facts behind that to back them. And then I also don't have any facts to say, did a nuclear family lead to this? Because you may not have the traditional nuclear family, but a lot of times what we see is that you have other male figures strongly in the family that's willing to step in and kind of play that father role. Is it the same as the father? No. But as long I believe in, as long as you have a strong family structure in place and you have a strong community built around you, you should still be fine. It's not the same as having a father in the house, but as long as, you know, that family makes sure that you have, like, essentially that community stepped in to fill that role as best as they could, it's a potential that you can have a better outcome. But like I say, I can't speak on either of those 2 points because I don't have any data right now to back that.
I was just asking your opinion as a follow-up. That's all.
Okay, so to segue into that, but this exactly brings me what I said in the original point when I was like, the government has failed us. Because let's look at inflation since the 70s. It costs what, $3,000, $4,000, maybe $5,000 to get a house, $6,000, $7,000 to get a house, a couple $1,000 to go to college, and that has been marked up 10, 20, 30% since then, maybe over that. So it's like, that's why I say the government has failed us, because they've allowed private systems or private entities to raise the prices of things over the terms, and wages haven't matched that. Now, we can say sex has been around since the dawn of time. We all know that. And we can say that, you know, porn has started in the 70s. That is true. But if people could just have a livable life where they could enjoy life, not to say they wouldn't have to work hard, not to say, you know, they may not have struggles, but they don't have to live paycheck to paycheck, I don't think OnlyFans would be as popular. I don't think porn itself would be as popular. But it does also bring back to your original point, when they took the father out the home, and it took money out the home, it took away that nuclear family, because people could say what they want, but two people working in the same home should theoretically bring in more money than, say, one person. Like, if two people are making $15 an hour, that's $30 an hour in a home. That's not much in the grand scheme of things, but that's way more than what you would bring in by yourself, even with government assistance or government help. And it balances out the emotional aspect and logistical aspect of things. You're getting both sides of what you need growing up as a child. But this is why I say it's the government's fault, because you took things away, but you didn't put things in place to kind of balance that out. So everything's in a disarray.
I want to be with you one day. I just can't, because I don't feel like the government was encouraging people to get online and take their clothes off.
You're right.
I don't see that. I do feel like the government did do things like limit the progression of the economy restoring itself by lacking from sending out more funds into the economy. They stopped pushing the things that they should have been pushing in regards to making sure that we got back up running the way that we should. When we had that lockdown, I feel like it was handled very irresponsibly. It was literally, we were back open like nothing happened. But as far as that being,
I get what you're saying. You're just thinking about the last 2 years. But let's go back to when the drug epidemic started. It's been proven that drugs are brought into our communities from who? The government.
Absolutely.
Correct? So short term, that really didn't do much, but long term, what did it do?
We know drugs, are
But
heavy in the Black community.
But it's long term, what did it do? You had the 3 strikes rule when Clinton was in office. You had the Reaganomics. You had a lot of things long term that affected where we're at today. It's no different than inflation and people not having livable wages.
That was their own propaganda, though. But Onlyfans has been created since 2017.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. But inflation has still been going up. Maybe I'm not saying it correctly. You had inflation.
I just think there's no correlation with the two.
It's correlation.
It's like
it's correlation. I'm saying it wrong. This is always
no. I think I understand what you're saying, DZ. What you're saying is because of the lack of opportunities to make money and because of government intervention in the last year, in which they had to supplement income and it not being substantial, people had to find other avenues to support their income. What he is saying is that because of government intervention in the economy before, it's creating less and less opportunities for individuals to make money, and this is causing them to take alternative routes in order to make money, and this is causing the proliferation of things such as influencers on Instagram and OnlyFans. That's what he was getting at, more or less.
Yes.
He was saying if there was more opportunities from an economic perspective, they wouldn't have to go down that route. And then he brought in the fact that the community was, he brought in the fact that the community was broken down by the drug epidemic of the 70s. This caused a weaker family, which also contributed to the problem because now you don't have a 2-parent households being supported. Instead, you have a single father, a single mother. And in those type of circumstances, you have to go once again down those alternative pathways in order to provide a livable wage. So I understand where it's coming from that.
I understand.
Yeah.
No, my communication skills aren't the best.
No, it's fine. Don't explain yourself. We all just receive information differently. Don't do that. You're fine.
Are horrible, but they've known me for years, so they understand what I mean when I say things. But that's what I'm saying. Nothing ever short term affects you the same way it does long term. For example, like if you've been eating McDonald's since you were 2, you'll be fine up until about the age of 10, 12. Then it starts to affect your body, and then by the time you're 50, you need every kind of damn pill in the world, and it's no difference than with what's going on with OnlyFans, or they've been feeding us McDonald's since we were 2 or 3, and now this is what we got.
Yeah, no.
I think it's different for our generation, DZ. I think Paris said this earlier. I think we're in between those two kind of generations where we know better.
Yeah.
I think we give ourselves too much credit in totality because we know better, and we're talking to intellects who know better.
Yeah.
But I guarantee if we went back to school in Orangeburg or we went around the hood in Tallahassee, I don't know where you went to school, Paris, but if we went around there, there's a lot of people who still don't know better.
They're also not considered a part of our generation anymore either.
I'm talking about people our age who just don't know better. I think there's a lot of people our age who still don't know better. I think even on Twitter, you can see there's a lot of people in our generation that don't know better. OnlyFans is a perfect example of people who don't know better.
Well, there's always been that aspect because you have people such as in my parents' generation. My parents were growing up right in the height of the crack epidemic. That's when they were young. That's when they were in their 20s. My dad actively did crack. My mom never did. And so, that was a norm for them at that time. And, he's a recovering, he since then hasn't had, that wasn't something he did long term, but he experienced it. And that's not something that talking about it today, like if your parent did crack as a drug in 2015 as opposed to 1982, that's a whole nother different thing you're talking about. So even then it was, you have those people who know better and those who don't. Even in our generation, people take weed too far.
True. But even still,
That's
you kind of can't compare crack to OnlyFans, because you can do crack and nobody will ever know. Like, there may be people who know, but that's not going to follow you for the rest of your life. In some aspects it does, but when you put yourself online, that's it. It's out there. That's going to follow you for the rest of your life.
Oh, one thing I did also learn in that 101 that if there's people that you don't want to see it, you can set it up to where it doesn't come through their IP address. And if someone were to try and leak their videos or what have you, I think there's some legal ramifications too. So I still think it's deplorable, but at the same time, it looks like they're trying to cover all their bases with this stuff. If you don't want someone to see it, then without legal stuff happening to you, they probably won't see it.
But I mean,
still think it's deplorable. Though. I still think it's terrible.
I mean,
a good hacker can get around all that.
I mean, yeah. Look, I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying it's perfect. I just wanted to throw that in there while you were talking about.
And it doesn't have to even be somebody just leaking it, so to speak. Let's say somebody who doesn't like you at work, and they see that you have an OnlyFans. I think the average cost of what I've seen most people's OnlyFans is like $5 to $20. That's what I've seen. They'll post it like that, So let's say somebody has that type of time where they'll pay $20 just to see what you post on your contact and show it to your boss. Guess what?
I literally had somebody tell me they're gonna find out my information to get me fired from my job because of something I said on Twitter. People will do it.
Yeah.
They have no moral compass. If they find out where you work, just because they don't like what you're saying or what you're doing, or you're making more money than them, to validate how they feel and to feel like they can stop you, they will do it.
And I can say this just from being on Twitter for like the last 10 years, women get it way worse on Twitter. Like just having an opinion and other women not liking it, they block them, they suspend them. In comparison to guys, like some guys say
perfect example.
Guys say some wild shit on there. I mean, some wild shit, and they'll laugh, key about it. But a woman will say something like, this is not my personal opinion, I don't like Beyonce's music. They're gonna get her blocked. They're gonna go through all her tweets. They're gonna find something that's offensive or rude or anything, or even they can kind of twist it to make that offensive, and will have her blocked and suspended. I know one chick, she's like on her 15th account just for having an opinion, and some of it is just jokes.
Yep.
Yeah. And then what makes it wild? Some people will come start with them, say these obscene things to them, and the person will respond to them. This is just what goes on with women. But it's kind of after that, it becomes it's like going to child support court. It's a race. Whoever gets there first.
Yep.
Gets suspended. Yep. But if you responded to 10, 15 people, you don't know who's gonna, gonna get you out of there and who's not. So that's my whole thing about it. So it's like, it's just a lot behind it, and I get why people are doing it, but I just don't think they're really thinking about like how hateful people can be and how jealous people can be, even if they don't know you.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like, especially in today's era, any little thing you say, people will try to destroy you for it. And my whole issue, say for instance, with the whole cancel culture is this: every single last one of us at some point in life, I don't care how holier than thou you are, or how much in sync you think you are, or how politically correct you are, which I don't even know if you can be politically correct because it's your opinion. Someone has said or done something that they are not proud of, that if it got out in public, they would be embarrassed as well. I mean, at the end of the day, people make mistakes and people do things in a very finite time. And like I say, we all have done something that we're probably not proud of, or said something that we're not proud of, but we're so quick to put the blame or try to attack or try to bring down people that we don't agree with, that, I mean, today people are just very malicious for no reason.
And that's what's crazy, because you can have people who are malicious and attack you, but when you defend yourself, you're the issue.
Yeah.
It's like, how are you an attacking victim?
Yeah, like I say, I think we're currently in a place right now where it's either you agree. It's like we can't have good and healthy debates anymore.
No.
It's like anything you say that is shock value or that you just don't agree with, that's very sensitive, you're basically gonna get slaughtered for it. And to me, you can't grow as a progressive society if you cannot have open debates about your differences. Like, you trying to shut somebody down for their point of view is not healthy. Try to sit back, figure out where they're coming from, why they think their way, why they think the way they think, why do you think the way they think, have a healthy conversation and debate about it, see if you can find a common ground.
It's also too many people who trying to be deep thought thinkers and they shouldn't. Like, everything is not worth a conversation, and we're in an era where people don't know how to say when. They don't know how to let go. They don't know how to pick their battles. And sometimes it's just best to say, listen, I was made aware of what that person said. I don't agree, and I'm just going to leave it alone. Because a lot of people are not having the discussion to find common ground. They're having the discussion to change your mind.
Yeah. And to me, it's like, you can't try to change people's mind. Like, you can't try to change something that's been ingrained since birth. That's how they are uniquely. That's who they are. But have a healthy conversation where you both can find a middle ground on a topic and find something.
We don't know how to agree to disagree.
Pretty much. But hey, if you say anything that's crazy or wrong, or that goes against whatever norm that's out there, like, you will get crucified for it.
But the bad thing about it's not healthy. The bad thing about it is, it's like, you want people to have their own thought, be their own individual, but you want them to do it under guidelines. That's not how that works. Like, I can't be my own free will thinker if I'm thinking like everybody else. Everybody's following the same guidelines. Like, that's the structure of how school is taught. To shun people out, to censor them, to tell them, think like this, move like this. We want you to think on this pattern. I would literally sit in literature class with a English teacher who went to a workshop to give us the material in the 11th grade, and she would give us something like To Kill a Mockingbird, and then would ask us, well, what do you think that they were trying to say when they said this? And then when you give an answer, it was like, well, no, that's not quite right. What makes you correct in that? And you didn't even write the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sadly, that's what it's become, where it's like, we can have a debate, but if you don't agree with the consensus, then we have a problem. It's like, well, no, that's not what that says. But I mean, each is their own. Like I say, for me, when people bring up a topic they don't agree with, let's have a discussion about it. Let's see where we can talk it out through.
Yeah, there's a small problem with that. Online, you're not agreeing with the consensus. You're agreeing with the vocal minority, more or less. So the way that Twitter is set up, it's set up to be very one way, as what Paris was saying. School is also the same way. It was originally designed to produce factory workers. And in order to do that, everybody had to be on the same accord, more or less, back during the Industrial Revolution and whatnot. But that's beside the point. What school does is try to get everybody on the same accord of thought. And when you have such a lack of individual thought and processing with that, you feel most comfortable agreeing with what you see as the majority when you're on online discussions. However, when you're in person, when there's repercussions to the type of vitriol that you're spitting, such as physical repercussions or what have you, you can see debates come into a middle ground. You can see debates where people are bringing more facts and opinion to it. So I think that because we have a public forum that's virtual instead of in person, we're deviating from what is beneficial to the conversation at that point. We're never going to get to a point on a virtual level to where everybody's agreeing based on facts. I don't think that's a possibility at this point.
No.
Just based on how we have been conditioned.
Yeah, of course not.
And people start to take opinions as facts. They feel like, if I had an experience with this particular situation and you had an experience with this particular situation, it was bad for me. My situation holds more leverage because it was bad for me. That's literally what that is. And that's not true. You can have two people that were raised in the same type of household, a 2-parent nuclear family household, healthy raising environment, and one of them turn out to be a serial killer, and everybody's going to blame the parent.
Yeah.
But that's not what that is. They did what they were supposed to do.
Yeah. Or did the best they could.
Yep.
But on that note, y'all, this is a little lengthy episode. We appreciate you, Paris, for stopping by. Come by anytime you can.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure speaking with you guys, Fahim, Derek, Herbo. Thank you so much, Denzel.
Same.
Make sure to like and subscribe.